If you are thinking about moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're looking for a neighborhood that is fun, vibrant, and eclectic, you've come to the right place because today we are going to be exploring NoDa. So living here is unlike living anywhere else in Charlotte. The streets are like an art gallery, the buildings have a ton of character, and living in NoDa means that you're right in the middle of the city's energy. So I'm going to take you through NoDa because you really need to see it to understand how special it is. I'm going to tell you what you need to know about living here, give you some pros and cons, and then I'm going to show you quite possibly some of the coolest houses you can buy in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's jump in. So one of the biggest perks of living in NoDa is its central location. You're only a couple of miles from Uptown, Charlotte's downtown, about 12 miles from the airport, and you're close to 3 major freeways, 77, 277, and 85. And the 74 interstate is right here. So unless you work in South Charlotte, commuting is going to be pretty easy for you. And you really are right in the middle of everything. So you're going to be no more than 10 minutes from most of Charlotte's major dining and social hubs. But even though you're right in the middle of Charlotte, it feels like you are in your own world in NoDa. And that's one of the huge reasons that people love living here, is its general vibe and atmosphere is just unique. And it has a really interesting backstory that helped create this unique identity that NoDa is known for. So NoDa was originally established in the early 1900s as a textile mill village. It fell into decline during the mid-century, but it was revitalized in the 80s by local artists. They saw a lot of character in this old mill village, and I'm sure the low real estate prices also helped. So they really recreated this neighborhood to be an artistic hub of the city. So today you're not only going to find remnants of the old mill village through the architecture and the housing, but you're really at the core and at the heart in NoDa, you're going to find art and creativity. And that's what makes this neighborhood stand out amongst all the others in Charlotte. And now let's talk about what it's like living in NoDa today. So NoDa is going to be one of the most walkable neighborhoods in Charlotte. And North Davidson is going to be the main strip. And a lot of the buildings along North Davidson Street are historic. Some are going to date all the way back to the Mill Village. And NoDa has really expanded significantly over the last several years. So there are a ton of new mixed-use developments with retail, shopping, and dining popping up all around. And there's still a lot under construction. And aesthetically, NoDa is covered in art, especially along North Davidson Street. You're going to find tons of murals and street art. You have the benches and the utility boxes, even the trash cans are going to be decorated. It's just a really bright and funky neighborhood. And the energy here is palpable. So you're going to have street vendors lining the sidewalk. They're going to be selling everything from local jewelry, art, and clothing. And on the weekend, NoDa becomes one of Charlotte's top entertainment spots. And this neighborhood does a really good job at offering experiences. For instance, you have Rosie's Coffee and Wine Bar Garden, and not too many people know about this place, but it is a beautiful garden right in the middle of the city. They offer live music, wine tastings, even gardening classes. And a lot of the restaurants and bars are going to offer experiences. So NoDa Brewing hosts the Charlotte Symphony occasionally. Some bars will host open mic nights, comedy nights, and there's also some great drag shows in NoDa. So Artisan's Palette is one of my favorites. They have a drag brunch where the proceeds go to charity. I highly recommend it. It is a lot of fun. And NoDa is also home to the Urban District Market. And this is a new food hall with some incredible ethnic food stalls. They have great outdoor space where they host pop-up shops, festivals, movie nights, and really throughout NoDa, you're going to find events and festivals all throughout the year. So you never run out of things to do. And for shopping local, there are some adorable local boutiques. NoDa also has its own farmers market, and the Urban District has a really cool little Asian market. And for staying active, you have the Johnston YMCA, which is a fully equipped gym with a swimming pool, a ton of community events. Plus, the neighborhood has several yoga and specialized fitness studios. And if you're into running or cycling, there are multiple run clubs and a weekly bike club in NoDa. And they often meet up at a local brewery, so it's a great way to socialize. But one of the big staples of NoDa is the food and drink scene. And the restaurants and bars are going to be just as eclectic and different as the neighborhood itself. So you're going to find everything from Southern comfort food, vegan restaurants, beer gardens, amazing cocktail bars, and some of the best patios in the city. So NoDa Company Store is an iconic place in NoDa. It's in an old mill house, but when you go out back, it is this beautiful beer garden that feels like you're in Key West. And you're also going to find plenty of bakeries and coffee shops around the neighborhood. And there are tons of places that you can work remote. So one of my favorites is Salud. It looks like just a regular bottle shop on the outside, but when you go upstairs, there's an amazing cafe and restaurant. And I can honestly go on forever about the food scene here. So if you're as obsessed with food as I am, look below in the description. I have a link that I send to my out-of-town clients when they're visiting, and there's a list of different restaurants here in NoDa. But what really sets NoDa apart is the incredible music and art scene. So I have said before that Charlotte is lacking in the music scene, and this is true. Even though we get a lot of the big name stadium performers here, we are not a destination for the more indie, alternative, even local musicians, but NoDa is going to be the exception. So in addition to the bars and restaurants regularly hosting bands and live music, 2 of the top independent music venues in Charlotte are going to be in NoDa. The Evening Muse is a smaller, more intimate venue, and the Neighborhood Theater is a local favorite. This used to be a movie theater back in the 40s, and now it's one of the top venues for independent music in Charlotte. And even though NoDa doesn't have as many art galleries as it used to, the neighborhood itself is like its own art gallery. You've got art walks, art festivals, street art, and a lot of businesses sell and showcase local artwork. And when it comes to daily life and living in NoDa, you have everything you need to make your life convenient. So for grocery stores, you have a few options. So the closest full-service grocery store next to Food Lion is the Harris Teeter and Plaza Midwood. But there is a small con here. So this grocery store gets incredibly packed because it is the only grocery store for several highly populated areas. It's honestly a little bit absurd. But luckily, you're only about 12 minutes from Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, and NoDa is getting its own sprouts in 2025. Now, going back to a pro, one of the best conveniences of living in NoDa is the light rail stop. So if you're commuting to Uptown, the light rail stop is right in the middle of NoDa, and so you can save on paying monthly parking or dealing with Uptown traffic. And speaking of parking, this is another downside of living in NoDa. So unless you live within walking distance to North Davidson Street, parking can be a little bit of a pain if you want to take advantage of these restaurants and retail. Now, they have introduced a lot of paid parking, which comes with its own pros and cons, but the longer you live here, the more you get to know the secret spots. So before we jump into real estate, my name is Milena. I'm your local Charlotte realtor. If you have any questions about buying a house or selling a house in the Charlotte area, please don't hesitate to reach out. Here's all my info. It's also down below in the description. I get calls and texts from people all the time. I am more than happy to help. Please like and subscribe. Now let's talk houses. So even though this area is considered NoDa, the official name of the residential area is called the Arts District. And it is really easy to see why. You take one step in this neighborhood and you're going to notice that the houses are going to reflect the same vibrant artistic vibes that you're going to find throughout the rest of the neighborhood. And when it comes to single family homes, you're going to have a mix of old mill houses with new construction, specifically infill housing. This is when an old house is demoed and a new house is put in its place. Now, the old mill houses are usually going to be bungalows or arts and crafts style homes, and they're known for having really amazing front porches, since back in the day that was their form of air conditioning. And on the outside, these homes might come off pretty basic, but inside, many of them have been beautifully restored, and they do a really good job at keeping the charm and uniqueness that newer homes don't often have. And since most of these houses were originally really small, you are going to find a lot of additions. And occasionally you can come across an old mill house that hasn't been renovated or added to, but 9 times out of 10, they are going to be demoed and replaced with a new home. And this is when you get the new construction houses. And even though it is sad to see historic houses go, one thing that I really appreciate about NoDa is that the builders do a good job at making these homes unique and different. So you're not going to find any cookie cutter homes here in NoDa. Now, when it comes to pricing, single family already built homes have a median price of around $705,000, whereas the single family new construction homes come in at around $950,000. And if you're more interested in condos or townhomes, NoDa has some really unique options. So you're not going to find any high rises here in NoDa yet. I'm sure eventually you probably will, but right now you're mainly going to find mid rises and walk-ups. A lot of them are going to lean towards a more industrial and artistic style. So think exposed beams, brick walls, open floor plans. You also have some really great super high ceiling lofts above some of the shops on North Davidson Street. When it comes to pricing for condos, they're going to have a median price of around $362,000. Townhomes will often be larger, and more often they're going to come with garages. So they'll come in at around $750,000 for the already built townhomes, whereas new construction townhomes come in at around $762,000. So you'll of course have an HOA fee if you live in one of the condos or townhomes, but luckily throughout NoDa, there's no required HOA fee in the single family homes. However, there is a really cool volunteer neighborhood organization called NoDa NBA. And they organize community events, festivals, street cleanups. They're really supportive of local businesses. It's a really great organization, so I've linked them down below if you're interested in more information. And as amazing as it is to live in NoDa, there are of course a couple of cons when it comes to housing. So one of the biggest ones for most people is the lack of garages. And this is something that is just par for the course here around Charlotte if you live close to the city. So occasionally you'll find one of the old mill houses will have an addition. Sometimes new construction will, but not always. So if you don't have a garage, you might have a carport or driveway, but otherwise you would have to park on the street. And another thing that you might not love about living in NoDa is that the lot sizes are going to be pretty small. So most of the lots are going to be below 0.2 of an acre. And because the houses are usually going to be one-story homes, they're going to have a really big footprint. So it's going to leave you with not too much yard. Even still, people do a really good job at utilizing the space that they do have, and the front porches make a big difference. And if you liked learning about living in NoDa, check out this video here because this is going to give you a pretty good, well-rounded idea of what it's like living in this area.